legendary coach for Arkansas's men's cross country and track teams, Gordon, and just a titan in the sport. For those of you who do not know about John McDonnell, if you're new to the sport, you should go back and look. If you go back and look through the results from decades past, you'll see a lot of Arkansas next to team champions in those three sports. And those were McDonnell teams. 40 titles total, 40 titles, 19 indoors, 11 cross country, 10 outdoors. He did the Triple Crown 6 different times. There was one stretch where they won 12 straight indoor titles. The athletic director at Arkansas called him quite simply the greatest collegiate coach in the history of intercollegiate athletics. So that's not just talking about track or cross country. It's talking about in all of college sports. And there's an argument, obviously, for that. I mean, when the amount of titles you win, Gordon, is more than the years that you spent at the school, that's saying something. 40 titles in 36 years.
Yeah, it's kind of weird looking back at the record books. It's kind of like, I know I always like doing basketball references, but it's kind of like a Wilt Chamberlain type stat. You know, everyone talks about the 100-point game. No one's ever going to touch that, averaging 40, 50 points and 50 rebounds. That's what McDonnell was doing on the track with team titles and the dominance for multiple years. Like you said, 40 team championships across 3 different seasons. It's insane. It'll never be repeated. We think what the current, when NAU wins 4 out of 5, or when Florida wins a bunch of outdoor titles over a period, nothing of that compares to what Arkansas did in the 80s. It's definitely something that won't ever really be repeated, especially now with the talent kind of going all over the country. But yeah, he's one of the pioneers, right, for collegiate track and field and collegiate cross country. And I think a lot of coaches, of now kind of, they all strive to be just a fraction of what McDonnell was during his tenure at Arkansas.
I remember talking to Lance Harder a couple years back when he was going for the Triple Crown at Arkansas as well, or 3 championships, holding 3 championships at the same time, I should say, right? Because they got indoor, outdoor, then they got cross the next season. And I asked him some generic question along the lines of, well, what would it mean to you, or what would it mean to the program? And he said, hey, I'm at a school that had John McDonnell, where championships, Triple Crowns in particular, happened quite often. So that was not to say that was the expectation, but it just put everything in perspective of like, okay, that's awesome. You got 1. Well, you're coaching at a school where somebody did that thing 6 times. And you'd still hear coaches, reference back to what he did, some of his indoor teams where he'd bring just a handful of people, a miler, a couple jumpers, and leave with the title. Obviously, if you can excel in cross country and then also indoor, which we know is sprint jump heavy, right? And you can do both of those things for that long a period of time, it means that you figured it out. You figured it out. And to do it that many times for that long, I agree with you. I think it's one of those things where we're just not going to see it again.
Yeah. And you see, while you were talking, Wallace Spearman, one of the marquee athletes coming out of Arkansas, put up a post, but like just basically the entire Arkansas community is kind of reacting to this, rallying around this. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I believe on the Arkansas kits at this NCAA championships, I think they have a patch or a sticker or some little icon to kind of commemorate McDonnell. And it's not even just Arkansas. Like you see Houston coaches talking about him, people from other conferences. He was just, he was transcended across the entire collegiate system, because what he did at Arkansas will never be done again. And it's pretty wild. He lived a long life. So I'm sure a lot of people who were coached by him and people who worked with him, that's definitely feeling it right now. But I know that they got to be a part of something that no one else would be able to be a part of in future years, because he was one of a kind.